that we're all facing here on planet Earth affects every single one of us. There's not anyone who goes untouched by what we're dealing with in this very complex myriad of problems that we're facing on a regular basis, and that seems to be compounding and getting worse. Is how the interconnections are really important to understand, from species extinction to topsoil erosion to lack of social trust on our planet. All of these are connected to the sustainability challenge. And even just our financial markets and institutional failures happening in our governments across the globe, the things that we're seeing right now and bearing witness to, nobody is unaffected by that. What is it that each of us feel most touched by with the sustainability challenge? You know, what is it that called us to work into this space? What we're speaking to is that there is something really at the heart of why we're all here, and really trying to understand that in order to engage people, we really have to get to what is the thing that brings people to the table to talk about sustainability.
The sustainability challenge we're facing is so complex that it's not about only managing the scarcity of resources that we have, whether it's energy, food, or other tangible resources or technology, but it's really about how do we deal with that ourselves, and what kind of leadership do we need for that, and can we develop and cultivate enough leaders in time to address this urgent and highly complex issue. Part of the paradigm that is at the root of this master's program is a whole systems approach and transdisciplinary approach to sustainability. Looking at the world around us, looking at sustainability from a systems perspective, so as a counteract to fragmentation and reductionism and specialization in a way, and looking at both what we could say the outer change landscapes of strategic planning and all the necessary knowledge about sustainability, but also the inner change landscapes of what we could call personal leadership, organizational learning, and dialogue and inquiry. And it's really about the intertwining of those two approaches. Part of the assumption and conviction that we have here, that we would like to share with you today as well, is this kind of integrated approach where you look at the inner and outer landscapes. Seems to be what's a very valuable and needed way to address the complexity of sustainability work that we're facing. We're living in this very interesting and very challenging and complex times, where, in the words of Václav Havel, something is dying and something new is trying to be born. And this new kind of paradigm of leadership that seems to be emerging among more and more people and more business leaders realizing that, is this idea that the inner space from where my actions come from and my intention and my inspiration determines the quality of my leadership. And that's beautifully summarized also in this quote from a former CEO of the Hanover Insurance Group, Bill O'Brien. And I heard that's wonderful that some of you are already familiar with the U theory, so I'm not telling too much new here, I think. Otto Scharmer, he also talks of this interior condition as the quality of attention and intention, so the focus and the purpose that we bring to any situation. And as leaders, consciously turning to that point inside ourselves is maybe the highest leverage point that we have in order to facilitate big transformative change rather than marginal quick fix. As society and as leaders, we are continually and collectively creating results that nobody wants, because we're often acting from habitual patterns or recreating solutions from old ways of thinking. This is also beautifully summarized in the words of Charlotte Miller, who is involved with the Finance Innovation Lab in the UK, who tells from her own experience that the level and depth of change that we seek to bring about in the world is directly related to the scale of change we're willing to undergo ourselves. Basically, she's saying that unless we really take this conscious, deep look at ourselves, at our own basic assumptions and values and ideas of how we perceive the world, we can't expect the level and breadth of transformation around us. And that is a very subtle but simultaneously such a hard shift of perception. So what we're seeing in the world is, for a large part, either reacting to the symptoms of all problems, so quick fix solutions, or redesigning new things, or like new policies for all problems. However, what seems to be needed to address the depth and complexity of the sustainability challenge is more about reframing. So really becoming aware of our own values and articulating those, and about regenerating, really being open for the source of our action, our inspiration, and our will, and consciously turning towards that place. Most transformative change and the most durable and sustainable change happens when leaders can tap into that fourth level of change, and that they invite others also to tap into that fourth level of change. And this is also beautifully, of course, described by this quote of Albert Einstein, which most of you are familiar with, I assume. That we cannot solve today's problems with the same level of thinking that we used when we created them. So this really comes down just to an evolutionary challenge. Are we able as humans to consciously take that step and reimagine how we could produce how we can create new ways of being together and new ways of organizing or producing services and products that really address human needs?
Well, we ended up speaking with 33 different change agents in our research, 8 of which were on an expert panel and had a minimum of 13 years of transformational change work as facilitators. So what is at the root of our actions and inspirations? What if the way that we show up as a human being is the core of authentic leadership? And what if being authentically who you are is really about engaging what already exists in you with focus and purpose, is about nurturing who you really are? What if that's the thing that actually is going to lead to transformation, and really start to think about using yourself as a tool when you're working in these spaces to really sense beyond your cognition what needs to happen in these spaces? How can you develop your authenticity? And so with our model, we tried to create a synthesis of the research and tools, and we came up with 9 personal leadership capacities that we're going to go into depth in the later weeks with 4 of these capacities, and then part 2 will do the remaining. How do you cultivate these? It's where you place your attention grows. So for instance, in practice, you want to be able to find practices that engage you in varied dimensions, and we're going to get into sort of a list of what you want to look for when you're looking for a practice. These are the various practices that we found that facilitative leaders were using in order to develop themselves in these capacities. And this is a list of the top 10. To become a leader, look within. It's really about bringing your full self to the table and sharing yourself with others in a way that helps them develop, helps them learn something about themselves by watching you. That's the kind of leadership that we think is really important right now, because the level of perception change that needs to happen on our planet on a global scale is so profound. And so really holding spaces for that to happen for yourself right now, so that you can then walk into a space for other people and hold that kind of space for them so that they can have those types of transformations.